Hello, welcome to my config section. Welcome to Config 2020. In case nobody has told you that before, my name is Jadesola and I'm a content designer at Cheaper Cash. So I'm going to be talking about how Figma helps me in my role as a content designer. I can't see you, but I mean, feel free to send me questions if you have any questions at any point, through this talk. So yes, I mentioned I'm a content designer, right? So like most content designers, right? I fell into content design. I started out in social media marketing and all of that. And at some point I realized, you know what, I actually prefer to help users rather than sell to them with copy. So I said, you know what, maybe I should actually take this UX writing / content design a little bit serious. Currently, I work with a very global team. These are my teammates. Ignore my picture. I wasn't ready, but I just had to put this. We have more people that have joined the team. So we have UX researchers, visual designers. Like my team is super full and they're fun to work with. Shout out to everybody, Cheaper Design team. You guys rock. So yes, why exactly? See, the first time I had to use Figma was scary. Like I had taken a number of product design courses, and at some point I said, okay, you know what, maybe I should switch to product design. And then I decided to take a few courses. And they said, oh, you have to sign up to one tool. It's free, sign up to the tool and you learn how to use it. And I got there and I saw create a draft design file. I was like, what exactly is going on? It was actually a little intimidating, and then you know how boot camps can be. You have people that have like gone ahead and you have some people that are just starting. I was one of those people just starting. At some point, you know what, I just said, I'm going to go on YouTube and just Google things. And thankfully, Figma has like a very good support article. Like anything I Google, I always find it on the Figma support article system. So yes, those courses, everybody recommended Figma as a tool. And eventually, when I decided to stay in content design, knowing how to use Figma has actually helped me to become a better content designer. So yes, why should you learn how to use Figma? Like, I'm literally having a whole talk at a design conference about how to use Figma. Why should you do that? I'll paint 3 scenarios, right? So as a content designer, when you join a team, you expect that you get the brief on a project, especially if you're coming from a boot camp, they've given you ideal scenarios, what you should be, what shouldn't be, and all of that. You expect that you get the brief on a project and you start working in Google Docs or Notion. But in actual fact, you actually get sent project links and Figma. So what do, right? It's always recommended to have that Google or Notion doc, right? But working in Figma directly helps you to integrate your copy directly into designs. You're able to account for space. You can tell, okay, this is the size that the copy is going to take. You know what screens are not needed at the moment. You can even start working on your error messages. Please remember, content designers work on your error messages as you're working on the screen. But that's by the way. For example, in this image, you can see I had a presentation. I was tempted to just leave it in Google Docs, right? But I had a presentation and I just said, I created a quick mock-up in Figma and I shared with the team. And I got feedback that they loved it. Not because it was like perfect, but they could easily picture what I was talking about. So it's super important. You're able to explain your ideas. So you might expect that as you're being hired for your content creation skills and your amazing portfolio. I mean, I don't have a portfolio, but that's not the topic for today, right? You might expect that that's why you're being hired, but your hiring manager or the hiring manager for the job you want might actually be thinking, okay, I actually would prefer somebody that has some experience with Figma. They're thinking of the learning curve. They want somebody that can already blend with the team, right? So they're looking out for people that blend with the team and have some form of knowledge of the tools that they already use. And this is between you and I. So you know that part in your resume where you have tools that you work with, you're able to add Figma and actually be confident about it. You're able to do that and say, okay, fine, I actually know how to use Figma. So it helps if an entire team is already knowing how, they already know how to use a certain software. The hiring manager would definitely love to know that you are versed in it. You can move stuff around. You're good. They know that in terms of onboarding, and yeah, you don't have to spend a lot of time, onboarding you. The third expectation that you might have is that, oh, okay, you've created your copy or the content for the screens, you've done it in Google Docs or Notion, you've arranged them in tables and you share with the designer, but the designer just looks and like, I don't understand what is this supposed to look like on the screen? And then you have to now go back to the drawing board or the table and everything. So knowing how to use Figma just helps you. You're able to convey your ideas to designers easily. Right now, even though I know how to do basic stuff in Figma, I'm currently learning how to, or it's one of my goals, I've registered for a course on how to create high fidelity prototypes in Figma. It helps you, they're able to quickly express how you'd like a design to be altered. You can try your hand at creating wireframes from scratch, and it also helps you. We always say content first, copy should be first and all of that. You are able to do that from the beginning. Copy is less of an afterthought. When you have already taken charge, you've created wireframes, you've done things, able to account for things in designs early. So now, long story short, TLDR, it makes you a more focused content person, right? You seem like that. In Nigeria, we say something about content designers or developers. We have this thing, we say 10x developers. They are the developers that are like, I don't know, maybe like 5-10 years of experience or 10 years of experience. So imagine you're on your way to that's 10 years, 5 years of experience, and you are able to say, oh yes, I know how to use the tools of the people that I work with. So it makes you more focused. Now, I'm going to share some of the things that have helped me, in working with my team. One of them is tutorial calls or team sessions on how to use Figma. I would have called them Figma Learn sessions, or Figma Jam sessions, but we already have Figma Jam. So don't be ashamed to ask your manager or a designer for calls or tutorials on how to learn how to do things in Figma. For example, in this image here, while creating my slides for config, I broke something in Figma, right? I just quickly sent a message to my colleague like, hey, I've done this, SOS, I need to quickly do this. And he was quick to reply and say, okay, do this, this. This happens a lot. It's not just because I was creating my slides in config. It happens quite often, quite more often than I want to admit. But yeah, please don't be afraid to ask your designers or managers for if you need a special session to like maybe weekly, bi-weekly, how you can get better in Figma, please. It helped me. My manager organized one for myself and the UX researcher that just joined the team. It helped me. So don't be afraid to ask for that. Another thing that helped me helps me rather, because it's not in the past, is status tags. They help you communicate the status of design. So I have a number of them that I use. Needs copy updates, needs approval, content ready for review, drafts. At least at the end, I usually put them at the top of the screens so that the designer, the developer, the PMs, the stakeholders that I'm working with, they're able to know the status of the designs, especially in relation to content. Sometimes designers don't like that I do this, but I do it because I need to call their attention. If I know that maybe they're about to deploy the project and I'm making an edit to the content, I just change the color to something that is so different from our brand guidelines that it's hard to miss. And I'm like, I did something here. Please make sure that this has been implemented or this follows the guidelines. So I won't advise you to do it in case a designer is listening, but for content designers, you can feel free to do that. Another thing this is very controversial, right? Is comments. So some designers will tell you, oh, leave copy edits as comments, while some will say they don't like to see a lot of comments on their designs. But to be honest, if you're able to start early, working early, it helps you to have a clear understanding of the expectations from the content person, right? So that's a way to help that whole don't edit my designs, leave as comments, all of that. But comments actually help to go along, where you're able to explain things that you don't necessarily can't necessarily type out or can't necessarily speak out. Another thing, or the last thing that helps me, is duplicating my designs into a different file. As you can see in this image, I have quite a number of them. Sometimes I'm like part 2, part 3, depending on how, if I can't find something easily, I just duplicate and, start working on it. So I duplicate entire designs into, I have personal copy files. If I want to share with the design team, if it's not too rough of a draft, I can share directly with the designer. If it's rough, I might just duplicate and just copy it into the designer's file, whichever one works for me at the time, depending on the designer. That's super important. You have to know how to work with the designer in question. Now, I work with a global team. My design team is already in different countries, in the US, Kenya. Oh, by the way, did I mention I'm in Kenya? So I'm from Lagos, but I'm currently in Kenya because I came to work for a week in Kenya. So yes, I work with a cross-functional team, across the world. I also work with, like, as someone in the design team, I work with people in legal risk and compliance, product operations, customer operations. So maybe actually, I need to explain this. When I joined the company, it was like, there's now a content person in the company. People or customer also send a message, oh, Jadesola, we need to send a message to users. Marketing, oh, we need to send this out. We're working on this campaign. It was just like, it's nice, right? Yeah, like the breath of fresh air. You're like, oh, there's now a content person on the team. So depending on your product or the company that you work with, those are some of the people that you might end up working with. These are some of the people that you might end up working with in your daily routine in the company, right? So yes, I will talk about 3 of those people. I wouldn't say I don't work with the other people frequently, but 3 of these that you might, at least in most companies, you end up working with. First people are the product managers. So product managers love timelines, right? They love timelines. I won't say more than anything else, but it's on the slide. They love timelines, and they love to tie things up, within those timelines. So whenever I manage a new project from a product manager, I make sure to ask, can you give me some time to be able to scope out how much time I'll need? Because I know that's when they have this question, how far? How's it going? What's the update? Things like that. So I always ask for time, which is what I usually do. Product managers, give me some time and I'll give you a reasonable timeline. Another team I work with is marketing. I know a lot of people say content designers shouldn't be handling marketing, but in reality, a lot of us still work with marketing, especially with the fact that we are very concerned or very involved with the company's voice and tone. So I work with marketing. I create, marketing copy, billboards, social media graphics, all of that, the copy that goes on them. With marketing, I like to give a lot of time, not a lot of time, but I like to give some time for review. It's super important. With that, you are not scared of, something going out that is not, at least you can reduce the margin of errors. So I usually ask a number, they just send a message, we need a caption for this, we need, as you can see in the images, happens a lot. That's how marketing works. And the last role I want to talk about is the engineering team, software engineers. So with software engineers, I tend to work on technical documents, release notes. Those are some of the top 2 things I tend to work with. Engineers have a tendency to make things, you just read the document and you be like, are you writing this for the user or are you writing this for another engineer, right? So I tend to tell them, okay, you know what? I need some time. I need you to walk me through how this works, right? Especially when it comes to technical documents. I know you're expecting a fellow engineer to read it, but we have to make it at least easy to understand, easy to read, walk me through this. And then, and also, because if I don't understand, I can't explain to the users. So I tend to do that with the engineers. So yes, those are some of the roles that I tend to work with. This is, I still work with other people. So in case they're watching, don't be scared. I've not left your team. So yes, how do I work and collaborate in Figma? Right. So I'll give you 2 scenarios. The first scenario is like the ideal one, when you're able to do content first, this is a brand new project, right? The first thing I try to do is schedule calls with stakeholders and people involved. 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour calls. Just explain what has been done, what needs to be done, and all of that. Then from there, we scope out the next steps. Research, user content flows, wireframes. What is the next step that we need to do? From there, I create copy in a document before I then start transferring or working in Figma. The designer then comes and implements that copy in its rough draft and starts to like work, in the Figma file that we can share with the PMs, share for creates before we then hand off to engineers. You notice I didn't number this because we can go at some point, if after implementing copy, we can decide we want to go back and have a stakeholder call, or we say, okay, fine, need more research. At any point in time, we can go back to number 1, number 2, number 3, depends. The second scenario is, this is normal, right? You join a team, there are already screens, you're basically maybe doing an audit, you have to make quick copy changes, product audits, all of that. This is what most of us see most of the time as content designers, right? For this, I still have my stakeholder calls. I schedule those calls with the designer, the relevant product owners. Please, I need context. I do that a lot. And then I just I duplicate the design file in Figma and I start making my copy edits. Depending on the designer, like I said, some of them don't like some designers edit, or I leave my edits as comments. And it also depends on the amount of time that we have on the project. So yes, those are 2 scenarios of how I work in Figma. Now, these are some questions you might need to ask if you need context. Who is this for? What product area is this? For example, my products, we have different product areas. Does it overlap? What are the related documents that we need? What are the previous designs that done? What did the customers or users say that led to this product decision? And most importantly, what OKR or business goal does this tie to? Because we have to be careful as content designers. Before you know, you're doing work that doesn't tie to any OKR, and when review comes, it's like, okay, we'll ask you. So be very specific and ask, okay, what business goal is this tied to? So yes, now we're nearing the end of my talk. Now I want to talk to the product designers and design managers, working with content designers for the first or up since time. So yes, product designers, we are going to disturb your design files. So you're going to give us edit access and we're going to disturb your design files. We own the project together, so be ready. Content designers are taking over, so be ready. Imagine I'm at a design conference, so what do you expect? Design managers, please, like I mentioned before, be open to organizing a Figma Learn session for the non-designers on your team. It really helps. It can be bi-weekly, depending on the number of people on your team, it helps. Don't send out, for product designers, don't send out files or designs for creates without content designers making the appropriate edits or changes. I don't think it's fair when we send out things for creates and people are commenting on design and they're not able to create the copy and all of that. Then we now have to just do things and we share them, without that appropriate time for creates. Please, let's make sure that designs are sent for creates. When I say creates, critique, just in case anyone doesn't know, creates without, proper content design inputs. Now, for content designers, I'll say that I just want to remind you, copy is just as important as design. Copy is not more important than design. Design is super important. Design that doesn't have good copy is still bad design. Beautiful design with bad copy is still terrible design. So please, let's make sure that we understand that both are super important, right? Start early. That's the best way to own a project, right? If you have to, if you don't start early, you end up having to start asking for them to make room for content designers. I'm actually talking to myself as well. So, it's something that I actually struggle with. So as soon as you're given a project, if you need to start your desk research, start it. If you need to start talking to people, do that. But it's super important that you start early and be prepared to, which is why we're even here, be prepared to visually present your ideas. It's not just enough for you to leave things in Google Docs. Be prepared to visually present your ideas. It can be whatever you want to, maybe sticky notes. In my case, I prefer to use Figma. Be prepared to visually present your ideas. And then a style guide I'm currently working on the one for my company, right? Voice and tone guide, to make sure the brand is consistent. So please be ready to create a style guide. I don't know if in your company you might already have a style guide that you use. If you do that, that's +1 for you. But use a style guide to make sure that the brand remains consistent. Now, in conclusion, all what I've said, content designers, okay, ask questions often. We prefer to ask questions. Don't feel like you need to, shrink yourself and all of that. Don't be scared of Figma. It's just another tool. Like, it's just another amazing, design tool that works. Just don't be scared to use it. Don't be like me. And the last but not the least, you don't have to learn product design. Like, don't do that if you don't want to, right? You can just keep asking questions and all of that. If you don't want to learn product design, if you don't want to learn how to design, please don't stress yourself. Don't add more to it. So yes, I've come to the end of my talk, but before we end, I have one amazing video of my most recent skydiving adventure in Dubai. We're talking about scary things, right? So I want us to watch it and enjoy it. So let's watch the video.
What was I feeling for myself? All right, welcome to Skydive Dubai. We're getting ready to jump out of plane. How you feeling? Show me love that I never had seen before. Now, when I got you, it's all gonna be alright. Thinking about all the things we did tonight. What a time to be alive. Just you and I. Just you and I. Only you can put the fire out. You can turn it all around. You can lift me off the ground, so we can fly again. So we can fly again. So we can fly again. Yeah, did you have fun?
I did cold, scary, but my ears.
Did you do it again?
So yes, that was a video of me doing something scary. I know. Yeah. But I'm just trying to encourage you. You always have to do scary stuff. So for you, if it's about learning how to do Figma, use Figma, whatever, I would encourage you to do that. So yes, thank you so much for joining this session at Config 2020. I encourage you to watch other sessions, ask questions. Feel free to send me a message on Twitter. I'm Jadesola on Twitter, and on LinkedIn, I'm Jadesola Odujole-Babatunde. Until next year, where we're hopefully able to gather together at Config 2023. Bye.